Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Gidavaratari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Gidavaratari. Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari. Jayam Swa Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Asatar Sata Sri Srimad Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Swa Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Asatar Sata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mathur Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, The Status Quo. Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura. Text number 17. Sa Nirgata Karava Punya Labda Gaja Avayat Tirtapada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chakirshaya Orvyam Adishtata Yani Sahasra Murti Sanirgata Karva Punyalabdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chakirshavarvyam Adishtayani Sasa Murtihi Sanirgata Kaurava Punyalabdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chakirshavarvyam Adishtato Yani Sahasamurtihi Sanirgata Kaurava Punyalabdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chakirshavarvyam Adishtato Yani Sahasamurtihi
Anagata Kaurava Punya Labdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chikeshayardvam Adhishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sanirkata Kaurava Punyalabdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam Adhishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdho Gajavyavat Tirtha Paraparani Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam Adhishtito Yani Sahasamurti.
Sanirgatah Kaurava Punyalabdho Gajahvaya Tirtha Padah Padani Anvakramat Punya Chikitsayorvyam Adhisthito Yani Sahasramurtihi.
Sanikrita Krava Punya Labdo Gaja Havyat Tirtha Pada Padani Avrakramat Punya Chikir Sayorvyam Atistoyani Sahasramurtihi.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punyalabdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat Punya Chakirshayurvyam Adhishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sagna Irgata Kaurava Punya Labdo Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani Anvakramat punya chikir sayorvayam
Ragamat punya chakirsoyayam
adhishtito yani sahasramurtihi
Satyayani sahasramurtihi
Sanirgatah kaurava punyalabdo Jahat vayatirtha pada padani Anvakramat punya chikir savayoryam Adishto yani sahasramurti
Sa He Vidura Nirgata having quit Kaurava, the Kuru dynasty, Punya, piety, Labda, so achieved, Gaja Avayat, from Hastinapura, Tirthapada, the Supreme Lord, Badani, pilgrimages, Vakramat, took shelter, Punya, piety, Chikirshaya, desiring so, or Vyam, of high grade, Adhishtata, situated, Yani, all those, Sahasra, thousands, Murti, forms. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapura, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With the desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Purport. Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurava family. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. But such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in His transcendental loving service. Vidura considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all the great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve great piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidura could have at once approached him directly, but he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. One cannot be 100% devoted to the Lord unless and until he is completely free from all effects of sin. Vidura was conscious that by the association of the diplomatic Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7:28, this is confirmed in the following verse. Yesham tata kata papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva ma nirmukta pashante mam dhritarvrataha. Persons who are sinful asuras like Kamsa and Jarasandha cannot think of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulative principles of religious life as prescribed in the scriptures, are able to engage themselves in Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga, and thereafter, by pure meditation, can understand pure consciousness. When God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. Syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatatir Nivesh Nishevanat, one is able to associate with the Lord even during the existence of this life. Places of pilgrimages are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they are distributed all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence and God realization. One should not be satisfied, however, simply by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. He should be eager to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. In each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. These forms are called Arshamurtis, or forms of the Lord, which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion to which our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing him and his Arshamurtis in the temple. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he is able to accept our service by presentation of his Arsha form. No one, therefore, should foolishly think the Arsha in the temple to be an idol. Such an Arsha Murti is not an idol, but the Lord himself, and to the proportion to which one is free from sins, he is able to know the significance of the Arshamurti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. In the land of Bhartavarsha, there are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage distributed all over the country, and by traditional practice, the common man visits such holy places during all seasons of the year. Some of the Arsha representations of the Lord, situated in different places of pilgrimage, are mentioned herewith. The Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, as Adi Keshava. The Lord is present at Puri, Orissa, as Lord Jagannath, also known as Purushottama. He is present in Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Madhava. At Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudana. In the Arandaranya, he is known as Vasudev, Panabha, and Janardana. At Vishnukanchi, he is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hare. There are millions and billions of such Arsha forms of the Lord distributed all over the universe. All these Arshamurtis are summarized in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the following words: Sarvata Prakashtanra Bhakte Sukha Dite Jagatera Dharmanasi Dharma Stapate. The Lord has so distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. Translation again. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are at the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Dhanava Maharaj, you have established a tirtha here in Kamsa's city, so we'd like to hear your comments.
Great. So, like Srila Prabhupada is able to establish the Lord and call the Lord, and he comes when the Lord when the devotee is very eager to see him and wants to serve him, then he comes to make himself available in the Archamurti form. And the form of the Lord in the deity and the temple is not different than the original form of Krishna. It is Krishna. How is that? How can Krishna be made of stone? Krishna is not made of stone. God is not made of stone. He's made of Satchidananda, Vigraha. That is his form. But because the common man cannot see his Satchidananda Vigraha form with their present eyes, he comes in a form that they can perceive him still. So he's kind even to the fallen souls, to the sinful people, and they can come to the temple. Even if they cannot appreciate the Lord in his name or his transcendental form in the spiritual world or the form of Paramatma in the heart, they can still come to the temple and bow down. It's good for them. Their bowing down is not a waste of time. Even though one may be sinful, Krishna doesn't discount a person. He may be sinful, but he can be transformed again. He can be brought back. Just like the parents, they don't give up on a child because he's done some misbehavior. They continue to give him the care and attention he needs to come back to proper life. Krishna always wants the living entities to come back to him, and he makes all kinds of arrangements. And the deity form is one very great mercy because, as you were saying, in the temple, even people that don't know anything about God, they can come and they see him. Even they don't appreciate, they get the benefit by seeing the Lord, or by the Lord seeing them, either way. Seeing the Lord may be not possible. They may not see this as God. They think it's a stone. But if the Lord, in one sense, is everything, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, everything is the Lord, and his energies are not different than himself. So if one of his energies is stone, then he can appear in the form of stone. Or he can appear in the mind. That's also considered a deity. If one is more advanced, then he can think of the Lord in a deity form. So therefore, sannyasis may not have to carry deities. They may not have to have deity worship every day, because they're supposed to be able to perceive the Lord in the mind. And he can be also, the Lord is sometimes in the form of wood, like Jagannath, Daru Brahman. He comes in the form of wood. Does that mean God is wood? No, God is not wood. But God he's everything in one sense. And then again, he, in his original form, Govindam, he's staying in the spiritual world. He's not manifest to us. So it's just another symptom of his kindness to give all the living entities a chance to get purified and come back to home, back to Godhead. Remember, this material world is meant to rectify the fallen souls. And therefore, these deities are very important. Some people, they criticize, they say, why are you worshiping a deity? Made of matter. But they forget that they also worship their scripture. And that's also a form. In many religions, they hold the scripture very dearly on their head. They offer obeisances. So that's also made of paper and ink, and that's just matter. But when something is used in the service of the Lord, it becomes transcendental. So the deity in the temple becomes spiritual. And the people who go to the temple, they become spiritual. And anyone who visits, even for some other purpose, they become just like the sun. The sun doesn't withhold its rays. The rays of the sun are very nourishing and healthy. It doesn't withhold its rays from a filthy place. It goes there too and purifies. Papavidam. So Krishna is Papavidam. He's so pure, he never becomes contaminated. But anything that comes in contact with him becomes purified.
Thunderbird Mars, thank you so much. Giriraj Maharaj tells a pastime when Giriraj Maharaj accompanied Srila Prabhupada to a program at the oldest and most prestigious university in America, Harvard University. And the students there were rather puffed up with their intelligence and their prestige. And Srila Prabhupada went there, and all the students were very impressed because generally in the universities, the professors speak in terms of, in my opinion, I think, perhaps, maybe, but Prabhupada spoke with such authority that practically the whole audience there was very attentive because they could understand this person knows what he's talking about. And one of the students asked Prabhupada a question, "Have you seen God?" And Prabhupada answered, "If I said yes, would you believe me?" And the student said, "No." And Prabhupada retorted, "Then what is the use of your question? Without faith in the spiritual master, there's no use in putting questions to him." And by the end of the lecture, this program included kirtan and lecture, and by the end, the students were so awestruck that in the auditorium you could hear a pin drop. It was the students' atheism was completely defeated, if there were any atheists in the audience. So, like Maharaj was saying, a sannyasi is not required to visit places of pilgrimage or visit the temple because he carries the Lord in his heart. So wherever he goes, wherever the spiritual master goes, that place becomes a place of pilgrimage. And Srila Prabhupada created places of pilgrimage here in the Western world. Even Butler, Pennsylvania, where Prabhupada stayed for 1 month, has become a tirtha because he performed many pastimes there. And he began his preaching programs in a place called Butler. And we were hearing from Prabhupada Lilamrita that Sally Agarwal she became very much attached to Srila Prabhupada, and she is still attached to Srila Prabhupada. And that month that she was associated with him, she could never forget that wonderful time for the rest of her life. And this Sally Agarwal traveled to New Vrindavan, and she gave a presentation of her wonderful experience with A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And also this Robert Nelson, who Magadhar Prabhu was reading about this morning. This Robert Nelson also came to New Vrindavan, and when he came there, Kirtananda Swami, who was previously associated with him in New York City, said, "You still haven't accepted a spiritual master." So in this way, Srila Prabhupada was still chastising this Robert Nelson through the mouth of Kirtananda Swami. And before I came to Kansas City, I traveled to the Columbus, Ohio temple, and that temple was one of the first temples Prabhupada opened in America, and Prabhupada held a very successful program there at the largest university in America, Ohio State University, where there was a kirtan and lecture, and Hayagriva Prabhu was there, Allen Ginsberg was there also, and in the presence of Srila Prabhupada, all the college students became ecstatic. They were chanting and dancing. And then in front of the temple in Columbus, there's a brass plaque along the highway that was erected by the Ohio State Historical Society. And this brass plaque states that this place is one of the first places in America where the Hare Krishna movement began. And also in Thompson Square Park, there's a plaque by that big tree where Srila Prabhupada sat under and performed kirtan for something like 3 hours. So a pure devotee, he goes to the holy places also to set the example for the common man and to purify those places, because when the common man go there and take bath on Ganges and Yamuna, they leave their sins there. But when a guru goes there, he purifies the sinful reactions that are left there just by his presence. And in this this is a wonderful translation of purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the first paragraph, he says, to have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. So we could use these things in Krishna's service and God's service. If they're not used in God's service, they become sources of degradation. And such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in His transcendental loving service. And then Rupa Goswami, Sri Upadeshamrita, in text 9, he writes that the holy place known as Mathura is superior to the transcendental world because the Lord appeared there. And superior to Mathura is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna's Rasa Leela was performed. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, because the Govardhan Hill, Krishna lifted it with his divine left hand, and Krishna performed many pastimes with the gopis and Radharani at Govardhan Hill. And superior to Govardhan Hill is the supreme Radha Kund, which is overflowing with the transcendental nectarian prem, Krishna prem. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also traveled to Radhakund, as did Srila Prabhupada. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta traveled there, he did some unprecedented things for a sannyasi because he was trying to establish the principle of bhakti and vairagya. And because he arrived there by car, and over his dhoti, he was wearing some Western clothes. He was wearing shoes, and this is unprecedented for a sannyasi. And some of the Babajis were critical of him. And when it came to Radha Kund, he spoke on the Upanishads. Generally, when the Guru goes to Vrindavan, he speaks about the pastimes of Krishna and the cowherd boys and Mother Yasoda, and sometimes Krishna and Radharani's intimate dealings. But these are all, this is certainly the highest subject matter. But if one doesn't know the position of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that Krishna can do anything, but Krishna's never affected by sin, then one will misunderstand these transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And when the Babajis of Radha Kund heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta at Radha Kund, he was speaking on the Upanishads for hours and hours. They belittled him and thus said that this so-called guru is nothing but a jnani, because he was not speaking about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that actually these Babajis who are living at Radha Kund, they might be superficially at Radha Kund, but actually they're at Naraka Kund. Naraka Kund means a lake of hell. So one may be in the transcendental place in India, but still, if he brings his misconceptions there and his material attachments there, then he cannot really reap the benefit of being in a holy place of pilgrimage. And Prabhupada said that one should not stay in Vrindavan Dham more than 3 days unless one is very advanced, because the residents of Vrindavan Dham are not ordinary souls. And after the one life in Vrindavan, if they leave their bodies in Vrindavan, they'll go back home, back to Godhead. Except if one performs sins while in Vrindavan, he's degraded to a form of trees or dogs and hogs or monkeys. And after that one life in the lower species, after that life, he'll go back home, back to Godhead. Are there any comments or questions? Yes, Mridanga Prabhu. Not that I know of. I don't know his present status. But Robert Nelson was certainly a fortunate soul, because he was walking down the streets of New York City with Prabhupada day after day. So in this paragraph, Prabhupada says, in the land of Bharatavarsha, there are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage, and still these places are visited today, even in South India, there's the temple of Balaji, who is known as Sri Venkateshwara. And Balaji is known as the richest deity in the world. So Krishna is there in the form of Vishnu, Sri Venkateshwara. So if this is auto worship, why are people donating so many millions of dollars there every year? They're donating money and cows and calves. Why would they do this if Sri Venkateshwara is stone? So they have some realization that here is God, and they're practicing bhakti yoga. And in South India, there's the temple of Sri Rangashetra. This temple is one of the largest temples in the world. There's over in temple complex. There's over, and Sri Vishnu is there in the reclining form, a beautiful form in South India, in the state of Tamil Nadu. And this temple is very, very, very old. The deity there was millions of years old, and he was transported here from one of the heavenly planets millions of years ago. And this temple is surrounded by seven concentric walls, these massive walls. And the last two walls out of the seven walls are places of residence. So this is like a temple town, and it's very, very unique. And after millions of years, the deity is still being served very, very, very nicely there. So it's thank you all for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It's time for the Sankirtan Festival. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
So we'll read this. We'll read the scores from this week of March 11th. For the pleasure of their lordships, Sri Sri Gaur Nitai, Lord Nrsimhadev, Tulsi Maharani, Srila Prabhupada, Sampradaya Acharyas, His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami, all the assembled devotees, all the devotees online. This week we had 5 book distributors. In 5th position with 2 big books and 2 Maha books for a total of 6 points, Radha Damodar Prabhu. Vivo. Check these out, they're pretty far out. In 4th position with 2 small books, 1 medium book, 3 big books, and 3 Maha big books for a total of 10 points, Maturnath Prabhu. Haribo. In Third position with 6 small books, 2 big books, and 5 Maha big books, for a total of 13.5 book points, Bhakta Joseph. Hare. In second position with 3 small books, 15 big books, and 6 Maha big books, for a total of 27.75 book points, Jagannath Prabhu. Hare. In first position with 4 small books, 20 big books, and 21 Maha big books, for a total of 63 book points, Rishi Kumar Das. Hare Krishna. So the total for the temple is 15 small books, 1 medium book, 42 big books, and 37 Maha big books. Rupanuga Vedic College, Ki Jai. So this week, trying to think if there's anyone that really stood out. We went to Legends and Walmart and Plaza. I can't remember anyone that stood out. You guys notice anybody? Oh yeah, we were leaving the plaza and this lady was getting into a car and we said, "Are you a teacher?" And she said, "Yeah." Like, "How did you know?" or something. I said, "You look smart." And she was like, "Yeah." And we gave her the books and she was really interested in them. She really liked looking at the Bhagavatam and she was really attracted to there's a whole guide in the back. Mahotsa, he usually distributes Bhagavatam sets by saying, like he shows them that it was written in the oldest language, and he says, and just by looking at the book, and he flips to that Sanskrit guide, he says, just by looking at the book, you can learn the language. So she was interested in that. And she took the books, and we told her we don't sell them like Barnes and Noble, although you seem pretty noble. And we say that all the time, but this is the first time I've heard this. She said, "Yeah, and I'm also pretty Barnes." And Jagannath just kind of stared at her like, what does that even mean? And she apologized for her lame joke. I thought it was funny, but I guess. So anyway, she took the books and gave a donation, and we gave her a card to the Sunday feast. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
My highlight was on Saturday, yes, and this was in the plaza. A few of us went out, and it was late. It was getting late. It was around 6 o'clock or so, and we were just walking, kind of talking to everyone we could, and there was this young man with, it looked like his mother, which it ended up being his mother, and I told him, "Man, I like your style." I don't know why I didn't know why I didn't compliment his mother, because she was the one carrying the money, but I complimented him, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." She was like really fired up. And I I showed her the books and I told them that it was on yoga and meditation, and she like lit up. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I love meditation." And she told me that she works at a place where they do meditation 3 days out of the week. And I was like, I used that as like a catapult. I was like, "Yeah, it's really good for you, you know?" She was like, "Yeah, it's so good." So we had like a nice little conversation, and then Rishi actually distributed a SSR to her husband, and he was walking near her, and she told her husband, like, "You got to get these books for our son, like this is really important." And so there was nothing the guy could do, because his wife was telling him he had to do it, so he just did it. And and so he gave a really nice donation, really nice. Actually, he he said all he had was hundreds, and he said, so he said, I can pay you 100. And I was like, okay. And when he was going to pay, he gave me like $1 bill. And I didn't say anything because I thought he was joking. And but for a second I was like, is he serious? And then he took it away and he gave me the real amount. I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, Transcendental Book Distribution, Ki Jai.
Let's see. Yeah, we went out to Legend on Friday or Saturday. Friday. One of those days. And there was a lady there who I wasn't going to approach because she was with her daughter and they were just kind of like talking. Her daughter was to be like 6, and I thought, well, she already has enough on her hands. But then I walked up to her anyway, and I just got to talking about what we were doing out there at the mall. And yeah, she ended up taking a Srimad Bhagavatam, and yeah, her name was Amber, her daughter's name was Campbell, and it was just really a really great conversation, and it showed me to you know, sometimes I get in the way of myself, and I look at someone and I think like, oh, I'm not going to go talk to them, but it just kind of showed me that I should go and talk to everyone I can, because you never know what the outcome will be. So Transcendental Book Distribution, Ki Jai.
On Saturday, we went to the mall and we went to Walmart. At Walmart, there was 2 guys. One of them was named Travis, and they looked pretty cool and they had some good style. So I went up to them and was just talking to them and kind of told them about Krishna consciousness and invited them and gave them a Bhagavatam first part and the SSR, and they appreciated that and they gave a donation, and it was a nice interaction. Transcendental Book Distribution, Ki Jai.